the less. I'm sorry. See, I didn't even turn myself off. That's how bad it is. Welcome, anyway. We're late. Sorry, um, but thank you for joining us. And I need to calm down and enjoy it now. I've been very stressed. If it's your first time, it's always like this, but just to different levels. Um, we're playing Tony and Rudi tonight in St. Moritz. It is an ongoing adventure we have set in the 1930s, a bit different to other things we do, but it does mean we get to spend time with a man who we love and admire and respect and are slightly scared by, all in one mix. Please feel free to chat or not chat. Chat's friendly. We'll interact with chat as and when we're sort of able to. Or you can lurk. We love our lurkers too. There's a red sun there. You can click to spend some Imperial credits. One thing I like to do is celebrate Rudi's unbeaten record. I am invincible! Which is always a personal highlight of mine. But there's other things you can look at. You can give them boons and stuff as well if you want. You can name an NPC. There'll probably be a waiter because I think most of the other cast are named. But, name a waiter, why don't you? And there's lots of things. Have a click through, see what you want to do. We'll run, I don't know, probably a couple of hours tonight because John is a couple of hours ahead. And although we've had a later start, I want to serve him well. And so it'll just be a slightly shorter session as it is. But that will be more than enough. We'll have a break somewhere in the middle. I'll forget and then I'll hear a ping somewhere because one of them will remind me that a cat needs feeding or a toilet needs to be had or something like that. Let's have a quick introduction of all of us before we get started. My name is Luke. Hello, I'm in the bottom right-hand corner, and I will be the Dream Weaver, the GM, the fabled story man tonight. And I hope you enjoy what we've got for you. Above me, I know who uses Dreamweaver. That's one of them uses it. It's Lee uses it, doesn't it, for his game? So I just stole it off Lee. It's good though, isn't it, John? I agree. Yeah, nice. Above me is my brother from another mother. He is the housewife's favourite. He is the beautifully floofy Ewan. Good evening, Ewan. How are you doing?
Hey, Luke. I'm good, thanks. I'm good. We're here. You did an awesome job, by the way. Very last minute.
Oh, that was my first sip of wine. Now I can relax a little bit. Thank you. You were doing well though, Ewan. You were keeping us calm. I feel you were the calming influence.
by walking away and not being
here. Sometimes that's the best thing to
do. Whatever it takes.
Sometimes a person's absence is more wanted than their presence.
Yeah, exactly.
Who do you play in this tale of ours this evening, by the way?
Tonight, Luke, I'm playing Gaston de la Rue, a French-born current occupation of journalist, pursuing our two heroes for some semblance of a story.
He's been doing a good job so far. Good pursuing.
Yeah, I think so. He's got his notebook and pencil ready to go pretty much most of the time. Feels good.
Good.
Yeah, I think most of the time. Some things are, just between friends and not for the world at large.
That is true. How would you rate out of 10? How would you rate your performance as Gaston so far?
You can't just ask someone something like that, Luke.
Moving on to moving up one to the smartest man in any room who lives his entire life in the Twin Peaks dream sequence, who I found out also has 6 precious pairs of trousers that often get wine spilt on. It is the delicious and the delightful Ben. Good evening, Ben. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm well. Always look forward to one of these games.
They're good fun, aren't they?
They really are.
Pleasure to be in. What do you bring to this game, though, Ben? That's what I want to know. Who do you bring to the game?
Oh, who? Yeah. What I bring is intangible and probably priceless. Who I bring to the game is Tony Guerrero, an Italian academic and adventurer.
What a guy he is as well.
He's fairly magnificent.
Yes. The one thing I'm sad about us missing on this screen is that we don't have your names and the date of birth and the country. I quite like that. So you'll have to remind us often about your age and your country.
Yes, born in 1903, if that's any help.
Yes, it's 1937 for everyone here, just so they know. So that puts him at 34. So there you go. Lastly, to the very top, both physically and emotionally, and with feedback from those watching. It is the delicious John. Good evening, John. How are you?
Good evening, boys. I am feeling pretty great. I am John. I am the
Hey, John.
creator of the indie tabletop role playing game Metanthropes, and tonight I am playing Rudi Otto. Rudi Otto is a man at his mid 50s. He is a German born man who was born in a caravan, in a traveling caravan. He has spent his life crossing all over Europe and Asia, and actually, is a man, a citizen of the world, you may say. From an early age, he was inducted into bare knuckle boxing. And when in his 20s, he actually became a pro boxer with an official, I will say again, record of 9 and 0. So he amassed a large amount of money, according to him at least, and he decided to retire undefeated when he was on top, almost close to challenge for that era's heavyweight boxer champion. I don't really know who was back in the 30s, but he was close to yeah, that's the record. He was close to challenging, but then he actually pursued having fun and independence. What he was really excited about in this life, and that was the world of academia, especially history and culture and generally the world of academia and what it has to offer. And in his endeavors, he met Tony Guerrero, and they formed that dynamic duo. And they went and had quite a many adventures together. But now, during these adventures, the latest adventures are Saint Mortis, we will have the pleasure of joining, and I will have the pleasure of playing the darkest Rudy yet. He has lost a lot of weight. His once honorable mustache has turned into a beard, and he has a lot of his red brownish hair has turned to white now, as age has finally started to caught up with him, and he has made a turn from academia into the occult after his last experiences with the artifacts such as Mary Magdalene's bracelet. He and actually witnessing and experiencing firsthand the world of supernatural, he became obsessed with it. And to sum it up, because I know I made the the longest intro ever.
We
To
just love
sum
your
it up,
voice.
after witnessing this man, this con man, the great, as they called him, the great Bauman, after realizing that he is indeed a fox, he went into a stupor drunk and doesn't really remember anything. So, how about you give us that recap? My character can't remember. Yes, yeah.
Well, if anyone needs the recap, it is indeed it is indeed Rudy. So for
What
for
a
the
segue.
for the audience and for Rudy, here's a recap of what happened last time. So, dear friends and dear viewers, Tony and Rudy and Gaston are in St. Moritz. Um, Tony and Rudy are much more the stars of the show, let's put it that way, than Gaston, for they were invited to a symposium. There it is, the 1937 Winter Academic Symposium, held at the famous Carlton Hotel in St. Moritz. And they were signed up to speak on Friday, talking about their search for the bracelet of Mary Magdalene, which for those watchers among us will know is a previous adventure. and the outcome of it is known only to Rudi and Tony. Even I don't know the outcome, and I'm sure they only gave away tiny amounts on that Friday. For you see, we joined them on the Friday night after their symposium, relaxing and enjoying time together at Le Petit Grand Hotel. Which they had booked into with no space at the Carlton. Now, after they had eaten, taking it outside on Rudi's say-so, in the snow as it slowly started falling, they were called inside again for a performance of mentalism and hypnotism from the great Bauman, a mighty man of skills and voodoo, hoodoo, juju, who skillfully and cunningly hypnotized 3 members of the audience. Nancy Durand, Pieter de Groot, and of course the great Gaston Delarue. Now, Nancy, hypnotized into laughing at all times, immediately started laughing. Pieter de Groot, the good doctor, had been hypnotized into searching out evil and immediately picked a couple of pickpockets who were marched off after showing that the wallets and things had been found upon them. What a good bit of hypnotism. And our dear friend Gaston hypnotized into getting warmer by 1 degree. Was it every 5 minutes, I believe? For a man that had asked for a great fur coat earlier in the evening, it became obvious, I guess. Now, the thing is, it turns out that, unbeknownst to our heroes, that Gaston had been whispered into the ear of by the great Bauman that he would pay him some money, 100 Swiss francs, just to do what he told him to. Immediately, as Gaston shared this as time went on with Tony and Rudi, they declared the man a fraud, not necessarily to his face or to the faces of the crowd, but amongst themselves. And Rudi, especially in his own special way, took it upon himself to try and prove the whole world wrong. As a man who takes the occult very seriously, he would not stand for such lies and hijinks. So as the crowd started to sort of finish their meals, they headed over to the corner table of Jean and Nancy, where after a bit of a fall from our beloved Tony and some wine splashing upon, I don't know what pair of trousers it was. Have you got record of that, Ben?
It's the 4th best trousers.
His 4th best trousers.
Changed into.
Well, of course, you wore your 1st best trousers for the presentation.
Absolutely.
So with wine over his 4th best trousers, Nancy briefly stopped laughing, shocked at the moment, and proving that indeed she too was probably not hypnotized.
Oh, sorry. Earlier that evening, it was the 2nd best trousers.
Oh no, so many pairs. Oh yes, of course. And then you changed into the 4th best pair of trousers.
Changed into 4th best, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you were like strutting like a peacock on the night after your presentation. Of course, you still wanted to look good. In fact, you yeah, that was a very sad time. So as the evening wore on, more and more people sort of scattered from their dining hall and went off. Van Beek and de Groot headed to the billiard room. Julian Peters, the reporter, went to the snug. And Rudi managed to pour schnapps over Tony in his trousers. And Rudi even bet his beard if evil happened tonight. He was so relaxed and chilled out. And if nothing happens, Tony bet that he would pour red wine over his trousers. A fine gentleman's bet indeed. But Rudi must whip a tablecloth off. I hope you remembered. Of a table without disturbing anything. Tony decided he wanted to do the Cresta Run. And obviously the drinking was going well that evening. However, Gaston actually deciding to do more than just drink and make merry, made his way to reception, whereupon meeting the receptionist Sylvie, who he bribed and offered dinner to, um, after hearing about a phone call that the reporter Julian Peters would take early in the morning before meeting Gaston for breakfast. Gaston wanted in on the phone call, seeing that as an important thing to take on board. And Ben, sorry, I'm too excited by you. Tony, wanting to get to his safely protected trousers, was informed that the safe would not open until 6 a.m. So he was a bit stuffed with that. Now, drinking was going on and everyone was relaxing. And Rudi, a bit drunker than the others, headed straight upstairs to his and Tony's shared bed. It's a long story. And fell asleep in the middle with his trousers about halfway down to his knees and immediately started snoring loudly. Tony, struggling into the bed, managed to just about get to sleep, and that was that, you would think. Until 3 o'clock in the morning, where Gaston was awoken by banging at his windows by none other than Dr. Pieter de Groot, the one who had been hypnotized into seeking out evil. De Groot was outside in the snow, which had risen quite a lot over the night, telling Gaston that he and Gaston were cursed by that man, no doubt meaning the great bowman. Before Gaston could do anything, de Groot turned and fled into the night. Gaston, rushing to get hold of Tony or Rudi, realizing quite quickly that Rudi wasn't going to be going anywhere, managing to get Tony to chase out of the house and chase after de Groot. Now, Gaston at this time deciding that the best course of action, the best way to prove that he was brave and wanted, was to head back to his room. Luckily for everyone, Tony Guerrero is a bit more of a hero and chased after de Groot into the night as de Groot struggled up the road hill towards the Great Carlton Hotel. Unable to quite catch up to him, Tony made one last lunge. As he made that lunge, simultaneously, Gaston had made his way back to his window and clambered into the ground floor bedroom. And as soon as he entered his room, blacked out. Sadly, this was not the saddest point of the evening, as just as Tony reached out to de Groot, Dr. Pieter de Groot slit his own throat, crying out about releasing the evil inside, finding the evil there, right in front of Tony, with his red blood within spraying out over to the deep, fresh snow. Of course, Rudi and John didn't realise this at the time, and so no doubt this will be news to them. So, it is December 1937, just over half a year since the fateful voyage of the SS Cam that left numerous innocent and not so innocent people dead, and numerous pairs of Tony Guerrero's trousers ruined beyond the capabilities of the best dry cleaners in Milan. I know little of what Tony and Rudi did for the months following their journey across the Mediterranean. I'm neither their servant or accountant. However, it was on the November of 1937 when I heard their names spoken of once more. I'd been starting to wonder what amazing adventures they may have found themselves wrapped up in, when I heard tell of their invitation to speak at the academic symposium at the Carlton Hotel in St. Moritz, Switzerland. St. Moritz, of course, being at the peak of its glory after the 1928 Winter Olympics, enjoying global appeal and lure. Many great minds have been chosen to speak at the 4-day event between Thursday the 2nd and Sunday the 5th of December, and yet, despite their late call-up, our heroes have been given an entire precious day to discuss their quest to find this mythical bracelet of Mary Magdalene. With their minds full of hot fondue and ice-cold schnapps in the beautiful mountains, our heroes accepted and met together to prepare a day of tales, truths, exaggerations, daring do and archaeological knowledge to wow even the most hardened academic. When the time came to make their journey, they met up in Milan and took the train ride together up into Switzerland and through the majestic mountains towards the glamorous St. Moritz. Taking a taxi from the station, they arrived on the Wednesday afternoon with enough time to settle into the small Le Petit Grand Hotel, cursing their luck slightly that the world-famous Carlton Hotel was already full of the hundreds of other delegates to the symposium. They cursed their luck even more when the room they were given came furnished with but one, albeit luxurious bed. With a trip to the apologetic manager, only able to provide them with a twin room from Saturday night onwards. It appeared our heroes would be keeping each other warm for a couple of cold Swiss winter nights. The Thursday night saw our heroes eating at Cesa Veglia, a converted farmhouse, the oldest farmhouse in St. Moritz. Truly splendid local cuisine that even put the Carlton's fine dining at lunchtime to shame. After a night spent sharing warmth against the cold, snowy night outside, our heroes woke early but slightly bleary-eyed for their entire day in the spotlight. Now, dear viewers, it's not my place as humble narrator to show you how they beguiled and entranced the hundreds of great academic minds in the audience. I shall leave that to our heroes themselves if they so wish, nor can I tell you of what they said happened to the mythical bracelet, for I had been kicked out for not having a ticket for the event by that point. Needless to say, though, they were a success from what I heard, having to answer questions from the huge crowd for hours in the afternoon and early evening. But this is where I am able to pick up with them again, returning to the humble Le Petit Grand for their evening meal. From now on, our story is shared and is theirs to tell as much as it is mine. So all I will do is set the scene in the dining hall of Le Petit Grand and then hand it over to our fair heroes. It is Friday evening. Our heroes are sat at a table by the fire in the beautiful dining hall of Le Petit Grand. With pine walls, the roaring fire, greenery from the ceilings, the smell of food wafting through with cigars and cigarette smoke. It's early evening, and diners have come in that aren't staying overnight to enjoy the meals and the famous bars outside. And so, as they wait for their evening meal, this is where we join this evening.
I don't know what to do.
I don't know why you're looking at me. I'm not there yet, right, Luke? I still haven't been introduced.
Yeah, he should be covered up at this point. The two of them are sat with Gaston. This is Gaston. He's there. He's already there.
Oh, okay. I couldn't remember whether I was directly there. Sorry, that was my mistake.
I
I've completely lost
suppose.
track of what's happened to the trousers at this point.
And Tony is looking resplendent in his stainless second best pair of trousers, enjoying a pre-meal drink.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Luke.
You are
You've
very,
completely derailed me.
very welcome.
I suppose I would initially be chatting with Gaston. I'll ask him how he felt the talk went and and how it was received.
I wasn't actually there, was I? Like for the talk.
You made it in time. It was the day before you hadn't made it. Yeah, it's up to you. We didn't establish it last time. Theoretically, you were there in time.
Okay. Well, certainly the other members of the press were, but I'll be honest, they were all idiots. They were very confused. But the audience certainly were enamoured by yourself and Monsieur Rudi.
Just to clarify, we're having like a flashback right now.
It's Friday evening. Everything I've told you so far this evening, you remember.
Okay.
But this is where we are right now.
Right. So, yeah, no one murdered yet. No hangovers, and
Your head
after
feels
all,
fine. Your head feels great. You've just had that first drop of alcohol of the day, and it is feeling lovely.
then Rudi will open his notebook of occult notes and continue delving deep into that world of his own, and maybe order, some like a little bit more snaps or something, and but nothing to eat. Yes,
Okay.
and he will maybe he will sing out loud, not very loud, but sing out loud a German lullaby like "Gling, Glöckchen, glingen, glingen, gling, gling, Glöckchen, gling," as he's taking his notes in a very good mood.
So, Luke, a quick question, I
Yes.
suppose.
Yes.
Um, it's Friday evening. Can we actually remember what happened after now?
Everything I told you earlier, you remember. In fact, you know that the waiter that's come to your table, who you've not spoken to before, is Philippe, the man who has served you before and offered Gaston his coat in the past, and much more.
And who is about to pour drinks all over my second best trousers?
Well, it didn't happen last time.
Um, I'm going to sort of lean forward a bit conspiratorially and say, I am feeling a bit displaced, if you guys know what I mean. And I'm going to sit back and wonder if it's a personal delusion or if it's shared by others.
Have you been to the bathroom yet? Maybe you need to go to the bathroom.
There is a noticeable relief off of Gaston's shoulders, I think, at this point. Yes.
Okay. So Rudi, you don't recognize anything odd right now?
Okay, before I start playing Rudi as dumb as I can get, does he realize anything?
So, I'll tell you what. Rudi was drunk, right? For most
He
of the
was
day before.
he
So
was
let's
stupor drunk, stupor level drunk.
make some rolls for Rudi so that we know what Rudi knows. I think that'd be quite nice. We can use our
Mm-hmm.
first rolls of the night.
Fair enough.
We're playing using the rule set from a game called Those Dark Places, written by Jonathan Hicks, which is brilliant, who has also GM'd on Infinite Monkey Tales channel, and he's going to come and GM for us in April, which is very exciting. That's a spoiler. I love the game because it's really basic but cuts straight to the point. And each of our heroes have 4 main skills in charisma, agility, strength, and education. And they have 1 in 1, 2 in 1, 3 in 1, and 4 in 1. Except Rudi and Tony, who have been able to change their stats a little bit over the years. Rudi, I need you to roll, please, an education. And
I add my history or occult?
Oh, yes, take a colt. I'll give you a colt.
Occult, interesting.
Sure, why not?
It's, by the way, the new dice of Rudi. I've kind of lost the old one. I
Very
wasn't
big
gonna
and blue.
change. This is a huge dice. Let's see how it rolls. It's a
To roll
4.
huge numbers.
That's not bad.
4 plus 3 plus
4
1.
plus 3 education plus 1 occult. That is a total of 8.
Now, in Those Dark Places, and therefore this, you're generally trying to hit an 8 for a total success, and a 7 is a partial success. You can make an easier check or harder check, but an 8 is good. Rudi, what you remember from the night before, part of this is déjà vu. That sort of, is that a word that's known? Sorry, in Greek, in Greece, déjà vu.
I
You
know
got it?
deja vu, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Just double checking. Sometimes, well, you didn't know what palaver was, so I was nervous.
No, that was new. That one was new. I know deja vu.
Um, so to you, there's a sense of deja vu, but you do, as you sit there and he asks it, it does trigger back more like flashes of things. So I would say
Mm.
after you left the dining hall the night before, so you know you the hypnosis, the time with Jean and Nancy and all that. After that, things get really fuzzy for you because that was where Rudi was pretty drunk by then. But up
Okay,
until that point, it's weird for you right now. It's weird.
then all joyful, Rudy will be taking his notes and with singing lullabies in German. And they, nonsense, Tony. This is a perfectly ordinary evening. And oh, what? Wait a minute. Wait. He drops his notes down. Maybe takes a sip from his snaps and says, "There is something that is out of the ordinary indeed. Hmm. Hmm. Oh, no, this is very bizarre. What exactly is the last thing that you remember from yesterday?"
The last thing I remember before just now was not a happy memory. And I'm going to glance around the room and see if I can actually spot Peter de Groot.
Yeah. So if you're looking at the dining hall on the map, as you said before, you start this part of the evening in front of the fire, which is to the right of the dining hall by the kitchen, between the two doorways, and you've very much got the prime table position. De Groot and Van Beek are pretty much a table over, so they're pretty much where the double L of hall is,
Sure.
and the two of them are sat there chatting away and enjoying a glass of wine each, a glass of white wine.
I appreciate their courtesy in drinking white wine, obviously. Um,
You
it's much
got to
less
be careful
dangerous to
around
trousers.
you. Well, they can, if you get red on you, they can just throw that on that, and it will cancel it out.
Yeah, exactly. It's essential. Um, so I'm going to glance across and confirm that De Groot is there and alive and seemingly well and enjoying some Chardonnay or something. That's okay. And then I will lower my voice so only the two at the table can hear, and I will say, my last memory is of Dr. de Groot's blood splashing across my fourth best trousers after he slit his own throat.
That is shocking. I have no memory of such
I'd be
dramatic event
surprised
with
if you did.
firing.
You weren't there.
Perhaps I was doing something very heroic then.
I I think there is a degree of heroism in the sheer quantity of challenge you undertook. Yes.
Uh, what about you, Gaston? What exactly do you remember? I've had a feeling that all of us have this French saying "déjà vu" in mind, but this is something more. There's not parts and bits of a details. This is like more like closer to time travel, if I could say, if, more than anything else. And at this point, I would like our dear GM to, if Rudi understands when he is and does he remember what's going to happen next on this Friday afternoon?
Yes. Oh, yes. We did the roll for it already, and I said you remember quite well up until this point.
So
The
what's
next,
like the next
your next, the next thing,
memorable thing?
the next thing that happened was Philippe bought drinks over, and then you were offered food, and you asked to take it at the outside bar, if you remember correctly. You wanted to eat soup in the snow because you're being quite
Then
aesthetic.
I remember it's actually the point where this story began. The Saint Mortis story began, right?
Yes.
So Rudi says, and unless I am a fool or a complete drunkard, we will be. He communicates what he thinks is going to happen next to the rest of his companions, and he asks them, "Do you remember these things happening in that particular order as well?"
Yes, yes, I remember it that way,
I do.
and I remember
That's
more.
frighteningly scary and confusing. He drinks some more.
Because at some point this evening, we're going to be treated to a performance by a charlatan.
Of course.
And one of the things that charlatan does is hypnotize De Groot. And De Groot,
Just to dispel evil or to find evil, as something as such, right?
and De Groot
Oda?
later that evening kills himself, which raises a question for me. Do we need to stop De Groot volunteering to be hypnotized?
This transcends much more than that. Rudi goes deep into his notes and tries to find anything about, from time travel to reliving memories to anything, any story or anything as such. Probably in vain, but he will try.
I have to say that's much better than my idea. My only thought was to catch the group now and offer him 500 Swiss francs if he points at the great Bauman when he's asked to seek out evil. I mean, we won't. If this continues, we won't have to pay it anyway. Am I correct?
I mean, that is brilliant.
It's a sizable lift though, off of one occurrence. I will grant you that.
That's a clever idea. We know that Bauman didn't hypnotize you, Gaston. We have strong suspicions that he didn't hypnotize the woman.
Nancy.
Yes, sorry, Nancy.
That's all right. I'm here for you, boo.
Yeah, Nancy Durand. But does that mean he also didn't hypnotize De Groot? Maybe that was the only legitimate hypnosis he did.
Maybe it was hidden amongst falsities.
I mean, is it possible that he used the others as a way of giving himself an alibi? So when the police came and asked if his hypnosis could have been the cause of the man's death, he says, well, I hypnotized 3 people that evening and they talked to you, and you can reveal that the man was just a charlatan and paid you to go along with it.
That's very clever.
As you're talking, a waiter who has never shared his name with you before, but you know it's Philippe, walks over and brings you drinks, brings you more schnapps, brings you a drink that you had ordered before we started this moment. Tony, he bought you some wine, a red wine, of course, and Gaston, he brings you a drink with a cocktail umbrella in it, and he smiles at you all, and he says, "Sirs, dinner will be served shortly," and turns to head back to the kitchen.
Rudi, in like in a self-fulfilling prophecy of some sort, says, drops his notes and says, "No, there's nothing there that can help me. I need some fresh air." And he will go outside, basically for different motives, but again, he will go outside as he did last time. But this time he stops as he's going, and he removes his coat and gives it to Gaston. "I think you will be needing that if you're about to follow." And then goes outside to smoke his pipe, but takes the bottle of schnapps with him.
Okay.
Philippe
It's
turns to
impossible.
Philippe turns to the two of you and says, "Will you two be joining him, sirs, or will you be dining here?"
I will dine here, please. And I will say to Gaston as soon as Philippe has turned his back. I think I should keep an eye on De Groot.
I'll join you shortly for the food. I'm just going to smoke on the veranda for the time being. I shall be back imminently.
Okay.
And he puts on the coat and follows Rudi.
Fantastic. So to get to the outside bar, of course, you would both go through that dining hall entrance on the left and into the main hall, past that big stuffed bear, of course, that I love so much, and past the row of coats and sort of a server there waiting in case anyone needs the help, and out onto the outside bar, which, if we remember correctly, looks out into countryside, onto the mountains. It's very beautiful out there. It is cold. And it's getting dark out there. And as you join Rudi, Gaston, it starts to snow lightly. Getting a coo from like a few people that were gathered around the door. That just the beauty of the moment.
Rudi most certainly will give a passing glance to the bear, the stuffed bear that is there, because many people called him the bear during his boxing days.
What was his record during his boxing days, John?
I believe it was 9-0, but some people say it's actually 10 or 11-0. But that the fan bases are wild and not to be taken seriously. And Gaston will probably find Rudi walking left and right, stuffing his pipe as quickly as possible and lighting it up. And says, I don't know if his thoughts are, if we are hypnotized right now, how is it possible that we remember the future and paying the actors to make everything seem like it was before? Now that's a possibility, but removing my massive hangover? No, that's not a possibility. Not even a true magister could perform such an act after all my drinking. So how is it that I have the memories of what is about to transpire? I and everyone else, except my two companions. Yes, Gaston arrived at the right moment. Perhaps you can shed a little bit of light into this conundrum, this parvavel. What do you call it? What is that English word that eludes me?
The pavlova.
The pavlova.
Palaver. Ja, jawohl, richtig. Yeah, that word.
Couple of questions, Luke.
Yes.
When Gaston blacked out, was it Would he be aware of what made him black out?
No,
Was there
literally,
like a sharp pain to the back of the head, or
literally as he got through the window, that was that. It just went black, and then in your
Okay.
mind, literally like a second later, you're back.
just woke back up? Okay,
Good.
perfect. He'll he'll joke a little bit with Rudi. I think you do me too much credit as he ponders around in his pocket for his cigarillo case.
Whose pocket?
His own,
Okay.
not in the jacket pocket. In
Rudi
his
will
his
light up
waistcoat
some
pocket.
matches and help him get his puff. There you go. There you go. Now, please share some light into this madness.
And as he flicks open the case, is it missing the one that he had? Yes, today, later,
No,
about now.
no, it's as full as it would have been at this point the day before. I don't know. I'm just the dear dreamweaver. I know not of how many cigarettes Gaston has in his case, but
Well, no, but Gaston would know.
yeah, and it has exactly as many as he would have had this point that evening.
And they're all the same brand,
Yes.
as far as he can tell.
Exactly.
He'll turn to Rudi and say, "Do you remember? We popped out for I had one of these. Yes, yesterday, earlier. But
Yes.
yet none. Yet it's not missing."
You're absolutely certain that you have counted them correctly, right, Oda?
I've as certain as someone can be in this odd situation.
How about the notes that you take of us and my heroic endeavors? Other the latest entries to your personal notes. What are they? Are they of today's date, or of days forward?
That's brilliant. And he pulls out his notepad and flicks through with his pencil in one hand and finds the last note that he has taken.
The last note was based around the some of the questions people had asked at the symposium on their presentation, things that you were maybe planning to bring up later, or ask of them of a quieter moment, and that was the last note.
Okay, and there's no obvious pages been ripped out.
You see Rudi checking the same thing at the same time, like touching your notepad to see if there are any ripped pages or something. But we do it at the same time, I believe.
Both roll education for me. Yes, that'll be what you're rolling. I can't give you anything else.
Not with driving.
No, driving won't help you, sadly. I was trying to
make 6 + 3 = 9.
See, that big dice is giving you big scores.
I got a 6 + 2.
From what you can tell, and
I am invincible!
And you're pretty confident, there are no missing pages. There's no, like when you write on a page and it comes through a bit below, there's no weird scuffle of extra words that have been written. It matches the page above. It's exactly what you'd expect.
The indentation.
Yeah, exactly. It's all. There's no rubbings out. It looks like it has never been filled in.
Gaston starts writing on the first blank page. As usual, the brave Rudi cuts straight to the point of the matter and asks the questions that really need to be answered. And he tucks it away and just says, "Well,
but
this it was my handwriting. It's not like somebody has made a duplicate without the notes that I made on that day. That's my notebook."
extra sense, anything I have encountered thus far.
Perhaps this does call for
I am
a
speechless.
drink.
I have to say that there are not many times in my life that I have been speechless. Most of the times I can conjure up something very witty to say. Now I am speechless. It's absurd.
As you are talking, Philippe comes out onto the outside bar, and he calls
No, we're
across.
not gonna be having dinner outside, Philippe. Go back inside. Leave us alone.
He sort of bows his head, and he says, "I'm sorry, Mr. Otto. Monsieur Delarue, your soup is ready in the dining hall."
Now it's not time for soups, Philippe. Go back inside.
And he turns back and goes. He sort of takes a moment when you say his name, and then he's like,
I did say it
and then he like
twice.
scurries back here, and he scurries back in.
Gaston leans into Rudi and says, "Don't you remember? He's a big fan. Don't try to be nice to him, unless he
Maybe,
does
but
something ridiculously stupid. He
maybe, but
admires both
I'm
you
not-
and Tony."
I'm not a big fan of what's happening right now, though. So, fandom is of no consequence right now, as it is the pursuit of truth. Ah, ah.
Well, I suppose earlier on today he might not remember when it comes around. And he stubs out his cigarello. Well, my soup is ready, and am I still hungry, Luke?
Yeah, you are
I don't
hungry.
even know anymore.
Who am I? Yeah, you're
How long
hungry.
ago did I last eat?
You are ready for dinner. But then again, to be honest, if you want to know, depending on if it's Friday evening, it's since lunchtime since you ate. If it's a direct timeline from the things that were before, it's the evening before that you ate, so you're going to be hungry either way.
Okay. Yeah, but am I craving breakfast or?
So I'm urged for some muesli. Why do I really want muesli?
Does my body think it's breakfast time?
I know we ate breakfast yesterday morning, which happens in about 7 hours' time.
Yeah, I mean muesli is like a cold soup anyway.
Muesli is a soup.
He'll turn to Rudi and say, if you'll excuse me, it feels like I'm going through the motions, but I feel the urge for soup.
Really? What's happening? You're following this path that leads to nowhere. Your full stomach would never fulfill you and give you content, as a mind full of answers will. What are you doing, my friend? Have to do something else, something more drastic.
Your full stomach will never give you. He quotes that phrase in his notebook and puts it away. It's either we are on this path and we will end up back at the same point again in some hours' time, or we're not, and we need to pursue other avenues and actions. Change up the script, as it were.
Well, you see, Rudi, maybe as you have never seen him before, the Rudi that you met is the dark Rudi, the one obsessed with occult and drinking more than actually eating. But now you see him kind of having like maybe a meltdown, a minor meltdown, and start blaring in German like. Was ist los? Es ist nicht what's this going on? And then maybe kicking a couple of chairs around and drinking snaps, and he's freaking out. He can't explain what's happening, and he knows that a full stomach is not gonna help him. So maybe I don't know. He's not particularly well right now.
As you're kicking things around, the small and shouting and swearing and ranting in German, um, the sort of the town visitors that come in for the bar and the hall that come out looking at the gentle snow look a bit nervous and turn around, and the husbands sort of push and ease the wives back
Oh
through
yeah,
into thing, and till it's just you and Gaston who would move towards
yeah.
the
It,
door.
it
So
might be looking like dangerous. Need I
yeah,
remind you that he was almost the heavyweight champion boxer of the world. So that
right.
man being in a meltdown and kicking up around might be looking dangerous to stranger. But Gaston, who actually knows him, can see that this is not like he's a man that's looking for occult stuff all his life, and now he's experiencing something exactly like that, but it is happening to him and those around him, and he's drinking without eating for the last who knows hours. so, so yeah,
Well,
he's in a very dark place.
Gaston will turn around and you walk back and approach and please, Mr. Rudi. I think perhaps Tony is right. He's inside keeping an eye on the group.
Uh, yes,
If
let me.
what he says
Right.
is true.
Maybe, yes, he's having a clear thought and shares it with Gaston. Maybe, maybe we are indeed hypnotized, and this entire fiasco is happening because that great barman wants to cover a murder he committed. As Tony is the man that we should be looking for right now, he will have the answers. You see him struggle a bit, but decisively leaves the bottle of snaps outside in the snow and follows you inside in a moment of clarity.
Come. And Gaston goes to put an arm around him, and it's somewhere up here, I'm imagining.
Gaston strikes me as a rather
that's
short gentleman.
That's fine, Monsieur Tony.
As the two of you head through the door and again past the bear, I bring it up just because it's not a plot thing. I just really like the bear. It's
Definitely about. How can we trust everything you say now, Luke?
It's got like 3 umbrellas hung off its paws that are like this. A couple of hats
Someone
piled
inside
on
the
top of
bear.
it. A coat over the shoulders. It's because in the video game, The Quarry, I kept talking about the bear the whole time. I just love it. And you head through into the dining hall, and immediately you're hit with the smell of food, and you hear the clanking of spoons and forks. Forks for the ones that aren't having soup, let's face it, because that would be a terrible mistake to have soup with a fork. And the odd knife upon bread, scraping the butter and so on. And you do see your beloved Tony sat at the table by the fire with his bowl of soup and bread, and Gaston's bowl of soup going a little bit cold. Nothing at yours, Rudi, because of course you'd left in a bit of a funk. So poor old Philippe wasn't sure at the point. But I want to take this moment to head over to Tony, and I'm happy to go back a couple of minutes if you want those minutes, Tony.
I do actually, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So the first thing I want to do, in fact, essentially what I want to use those minutes to do, is I want to glance around the packed restaurant, the bar dining area, sorry. And I'm looking for signs of anybody else who is going through the same crisis of reality and causality that I am at the moment? Is there somebody else who's sort of looking around and staring at other people and wondering if others are suffering the same disconnect?
Excellent question. I'm going to get you to roll that though, of course, because it's role playing, and
Because it's a role play.
it just be a story around the fire if I didn't. That's which I love the idea of, and this almost is, but still. Could you please roll an education? You're not doing it in a daring do way, are you? But like jumping around and swinging on
I
chandeliers
am
to look
not.
down at people? No, okay, then just
I don't
then
think
just a D6 with education.
I don't think I can
please.
realistically argue that this is driving either.
No,
Um,
you had already tried that. It didn't work.
Yeah. No, I can't really. No, I can't justify any of that. So it's going to be a straight education.
Yes,
Okay. It's not great. That's a 2 + 4, 6.
Okay. So I'll explain the room to you and tell you what you see, if that's okay, because I haven't. Last time I didn't get to describe the room while food was going on, of course. So it's quite a joy to do it this time.
That's true.
So you sat there as the other two have gone out, and as you've sat there, Philippe and the other waiters have come through and been serving the food under the watchful eye of, and I need to find the name, Alexander Fricker. You remember him, the manager. He's sort of poked around, sort of eating his finery, watching things go. But it's been a very nice service. It's not been like that 5-star silver service, but it's good. It's nice service, but in a homely and slightly friendly way, which for me is the best sort of service, to be honest. And the bowls and plates go out. You are in front of the fire. Now I want you to picture this dining hall rectangle. Across the middle, there are 3 main tables. Okay, you to the right of the double L. You've got De Groot and Van Beek. They're probably like the A double L, I would say. And then you've got 2 more circular tables across from there. Okay. The one behind them has Claire Spelling on. You didn't really talk to her before, but she's there to give a presentation. And Julian Peters, who you did have an interaction with, that was in the Snug, if you remember correctly. He's the reporter, right? And then after that, there's a table with some randoms on. Because if you remember, we've talked before, they have people that just come in for the meal of an evening. The nice tables are the ones along the window, which is to the bottom as we're looking at it, looking out over the surroundings. The one nearest the kitchen door and the 2 after that are all have randoms around it. Just people from town, okay? The one in the corner, if you remember, has the Durans. Jean, you know, of course, from your previous experiences. To the top of the dining hall, that's a bit more of a thoroughfare. So there's only really a couple of tables up there. You've got the Great Bowman. In fact, you've looked at his table before. One of you, the night before, went and had a look around his table. He's sort of to the top, to the right, and to the left you have the Espositos there. And then there's one more table closest to the door, the worst table in the house, basically, like top left, which has more randoms on. And you're watching as the food's coming out. You don't, from what that roll, you don't notice anything particular. Someone just standing up and going, "What? I was asleep a minute ago. What? What's going on? We had this soup yesterday." No one seems to be doing that from what you could. But then you did roll a 6, but that's what you can tell. The vibe is really posy vibes all around.
So everybody looks basically comfortable, as best I can tell.
Yes, you even get as the food comes out, the Groot has noticed you sort of looking at him a little bit, and he smiled and raised his glass to you. I said, a fine day today, Monsieur Guerrero. My favourite day of the symposium so far. My compliments to you and Monsieur Otto.
Thank you. Very kind of you to say. I'm going to glance around the room a little bit and see if I can catch the eye of Bauman.
Okay, so Bauman is sat at the table, up at the top as you're looking at it, probably level with the double L's.
Yeah.
He's sat there just caught up in his own business. You'd not really acknowledged him before because you hadn't really paid attention. You didn't really know who he was or anything. He's just sat buttering bread rather furiously. He seems to love bread.
Is he in any way buttering it evenly?
Yeah, he's cackling. He's spreading it with both sides of the knife. The light catches him, so you've just got like a bit of darkness under his top hat that he's wearing. He's twiddling a moustache with his other hand. No,
Okay.
he's just very, very casual. You'd make it so easy if he was.
Yeah, I am going to I'm going to take a couple of minutes while they were having a conversation outside. I'm going to take a couple of minutes to observe the room, as I said, and to take a look, to exchange a kind word with de Groot, and then to have a glare at Bauman to see if he'll pay attention to me. But I'm not going to tip my hand at this point, just in case he's nothing to do with this. And I will wait until I see the other two return.
Fantastic. As much as you sort of keep looking over at Bauman, there's not any point you catch his eye. He seems quite friendly with the waiting staff who have brought him over some extra bread, and Fricka talks to him a bit more in a more friendly manner. He obviously spent more time there than the rest of you, and everything seems to be going quite nicely. Soup's always an awkward one for wine, so people are struggling to work out quite which wine to pair with the soup. But apart from that, things are going nicely. And as you're sat there on your soup, casting the odd worrying glance over to Gaston's that seems to be cooling by the second, your two friends do indeed enter and make their way over to you. And I open it back up again to the three of you together.
As they sit down, I'm going to say, gentlemen, no one else seems to be struggling with this, at least as far as I can tell. So it could be just the three of us, which is one of my big questions. In fact, if you'll forgive me, I have a few that I need to ask, and if anyone has any idea of how we can work out the answers, I'd very much appreciate it. Because at the moment, all I have is questions. I have no tests I can apply yet to answer them. So the first question, whether or not we were hypnotized into thinking that we spent last night going about our business, and now we've woken up and we are no longer hypnotized, or whether, in fact, everything we remember happening last night happened and we've been hypnotized into thinking we're back here, or whether there's something truly magical and supernatural going on which has completely taken over our world. We need to find a way of testing whether or not this is the first time that's happened to us. Because for all we know, we could have lived through this evening 40 times already.
A temporal loop.
And we can only remember the last one.
Yes, that's it's a very interesting and frightening, equally so, theory, my dear Tony. Rudi, I don't think he ever sat down, to be exactly. Maybe he's like circling the table like a vulture or something as you're both eating. And Tony hasn't seen Rudi like that. Maybe never. Maybe like only when they discovered like the bracelets through abilities or something like that. And he will lighten up his pythons on the inside. I don't know if it's against the rules, but Rudi won't care at this point. And he immediately regrets leaving the bottle of the snaps outside. And proceeds and said, all right, let us take a deep breath. Takes a very deep breath. He speaks loudly and like pompously so, and says, there is an explanation to what's happening. I reckon the explanation is not that we're living something truly supernatural. So that leaves us to that narrows down to fewer options. One, that we've been hypnotized, not supernatural per se, but at this moment he wants to take a look at the Bauman. What is he doing at the moment?
Well, he's cackling maniacally and twiddling his moustache. No, he's just torn a very thickly buttered chunk of bread and he's dipping it into his soup to eat. I know. He's the worst.
But the bread is already buttered. He proceeds to dip into the soup. He's not to be trusted. Even so, I feel that is not the man that is behind that. Perhaps we are drugged. It's another explanation. Perhaps there's no sorcery of sorts involved. It's simply herbalism and science. Then again, how could someone pay the entire... Is everyone around us an actor? We have been circled before by supposed to be members of the staff who turn out to be cultists or terrorists or whatever the sorts. Maybe this is just another one of these times. And all the actors are pretending to be Friday night, but in fact, it is what night should be? It should be like Sunday, or theoretically when, like after waking up, Saturday morning should be right now, something like that. Dear GM.
Well, the way to solve that
when there's anything to do with this, I can't say what day's what, mate. It's Friday. It's Friday evening. You're enjoying your dinner.
It just seems to be Friday an awful lot. That's what we're saying.
Always Friday, never Saturday. That's the problem with life. At least it's not Monday. It could be worse.
It could be worse. Okay. So I do have a couple of sort of threads to pull on to maybe help us answer some questions. The first is, it appears to affect only the three of us, which means whatever it is, whether it's magic or drugs or hypnosis, it has to be targeted at us. And for some reason, someone has to have done this for a reason, right?
The motive still eludes me. I suppose it resolves around the murder of Dr. Peter de Groot that you alone witnessed. Perhaps they have chosen all three of us as a target because the two of us are legendary investigators and solvers of mysteries. And my dear Gaston, you're graced by our presence as well. But let's say that it is a motive. Is it the reason Dr. Peter de Groot's murder? Or is it something more? Maybe I should punch that great Bauman really hard and intimidate him and get the answers I'm looking for.
it
That never failed to bring answers before.
it may be. I mean, it may be something worth trying, and certainly it would be entertaining. Um, I suppose the thing that's got me confused is whether or not what we think has happened has ever actually happened. In other words, are we living in a world full of implanted memories that tell us a possible future, or
I
has it already
have an
happened?
idea.
Well,
Is Jean and Nancy Durand there?
Yes, they're in. As you look at the dining hall, they're in the bottom left. If you remember, they were in a comfortable place. They've got
Mm.
basically for the view. They've got the most beautiful place. They've got a window to the left. They've got a
Mm.
window below. They are there. They are. They've just finished up their soup. They're sipping their drinks and they're chatting and sort of. They're newly married, if you
Excellent.
remember. They're sort of holding each other's hands and sort of
Yes.
muttering sweet
Rudy
nothings.
spent quite a lot of time with them at their table. They must have told him some information that should not have been revealed up until later. Actually, yeah, I don't know what I'm fishing for right now, but based on what Tony just said, if Rudy is privy to some sort of information that hasn't been revealed to him just yet, he wants to figure it out, and if so, to go and inquire the Durand couple about it.
Right. What there was stuff that was talked about. It wasn't massive. I can go into it. As you're thinking about, I need to move the time along, of course. And I'll tell you what was said. But as you're thinking it through, trying to remember back.
Okay.
Philip returns and nods and sort of removes soup, almost as if you haven't quite finished with it. But they're on a tight schedule. The soup removes the remain. Motions to the basket with a couple of slices of bread left. Asks, "Do you want to keep this, sirs, or shall I take it too?"
I'm finished.
I'm done, thank you.
He takes it. So you were both. You were all three of you were beef, sirs, I believe tonight. Rudi, are you? Sorry, Monsieur Otto. I'm so sorry, Monsieur Otto. Are you? That's me, not him, by the way. Don't take that as a plot thing. Monsieur Otto, are
He
you?
was gonna say that's Mr. Otto to you.
Yeah. Monsieur Otto, I feel like we're friends. I've read so many of your writings. Monsieur Otto, are you joining your friends for the main course at least?
Yes, and be so kind and bring me the bottle of snaps that I left outside.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
Appears I will be needing it after all.
And he heads back through to the kitchen, and as he goes, he sees and whispers to someone who scurries out the door, obviously towards the outside bar. And as the last bit, as you're remembering what was said with the Durans, he brings back very beautifully balanced 3 plates with the beef and extra gravy boots.
Update to the great Boutman at the moment. What is he doing right now?
He is. I don't want to paint him as a villain, but he is over salting the beef.
Oh, Rudi watches it and says, "I never wanted to punch someone in the face for at least 2 decades."
As you get frustrated, you think back to the night before with the Durans. What you remember was heading over there and trying to chat with them a bit. It was a little bit clumsy, but you got it done. Then you remember Tony ending up with wine on his trousers, of course. It's tradition. As Tony crashes into Philippe. And it was just you sat there at the time because, and then because they were the other two were heading over because they were following the Great Bowman into the snug at the time. So it's just you with the Durans. And then all you remember is after Nancy stopped laughing, she'd stormed off. And that's when you got to talk to Jean. And Jean asked, you remember that Jean had asked Gaston if he was paid, which Gaston admitted. And then Jean had rushed off to have Nancy unprogrammed, i.e. to get money out, to make sure they got the money, I guess. Like to get the money that she had taken. There was... Before that, it was just, oh, hi, I remember you. How are things going? Oh, new wife. Yeah, new wife. Didn't do too well with the last one, did we? No, hopefully this one's a bit better. But then he'd rushed off when there was money on the table, I guess, really.
I mean, nothing usable maybe right now.
No, not really. Only that he was happy to... he was happy that his wife hadn't been actually hypnotized because he'd realized that there was money in it, I guess.
Yes, but that thing hasn't theoretically happened yet. He didn't reveal to me anything about Friday afternoon that,
no, there was nothing that you could say.
Yeah,
nothing that you could pre-plan otherwise.
Rudi continues to think deep and hard and give intimidating glances to the great Bauman and tighten his knuckles, and I just want to punch him so hard.
The great Bauman has realised he's oversalted his beef a bit too much, and he sort of carefully he picks a sort of a pinch of grains off and just sort of like sort of brushes it onto the tablecloth and onto the floor.
This guy's a monster.
As he cuts into it, you notice that he's gone for very well done.
Oh.
Well done. The monster.
This is horrific. It's like torture. Okay.
As Gaston throws some blue beef into his mouth, he looks at the other two and says, "Of course, you know the easiest way to find out if this is actually happening or not."
Which one is it?
He looks around the dining room. There aren't many people. This is a small hotel. It would be easy to pay them all, say, 100 francs or a similar amount of money. But the Carlton is much bigger. I'm sure you could find someone there who would know what the day actually is, or if that's awkward, you could always phone somebody who you truly trust. They have a telephone here. He can't have paid everybody in the whole world to just call a random phone number.
It's a fantastic idea, Gaston. There must be someone where both Rudi and I trust, an associate and a colleague, a friend.
Absolutely.
That's Gaston or someone. We must have friends.
Hello.
There is if you want a shared friend, I can give you a shared friend. From your time on the boat, you both have the number for. Well, you have a couple of numbers. You have the number for Monsieur Canard, who's in town. You have a number for a couple of the guys on the boat, some that you probably wouldn't trust. Those are your shared people, I guess.
To be fair, we got to know Jean Durand as well.
You got to know Jean Durand.
Yeah, Durand is here, and he's not exactly trustworthy. Maybe go a different route.
Well, not entirely trustworthy, perhaps, but he's not a bad guy and not evil as far as we know.
I think he's just a bad judge of character.
Yeah.
But we don't need him to judge a character. We need him to judge a calendar. That's a whole different thing.
Of course, a random stranger who has no connection to you whatsoever would possibly be more impartial. But that's just my.
All right. Yeah, Tony proceeds. Sorry, again, Rudy proceeds and asks Tony, which one should we call? Someone that must be out of the reach, out of can trust.
I suggest that you ask Jean, and at the same
I
time,
don't trust Jean. I don't trust Jean.
you don't have to. Just ask him. And at the same time, Gaston can go out to the front desk and call his editor.
Oh.
And get an answer from him. And while you're doing that, I'm going to see if Claire Spelling will give me the time of day. So to speak.
Just Gaston. Tony doesn't do anything. Tony can do what he wants. Gaston writes that down in his notebook in a little quotation mark.
Stop forcing your game on other people, Gaston.
I will do that because
My apologies.
I trust you, Tony. But let me tell you that first. If we all receive basically the same answer from a different person, the same answer, that could mean only one thing. Only two options would narrow down to two options. First option is the one who bewitched us, who hexed us, has powers beyond space and time. I find it very hard to believe from my researches, or we have never actually experienced Saturday at all. And in fact, today is indeed Friday, and we were only meant to believe that we have experienced the next day and the things that we remember. It's still very vague. My theory has a lot of room to grow, but yes. What should I inquire from Jean Durand? Yes, maybe he's not a villainous character, but he's an imbecile.
I would ask him when he arrived, how many days ago?
And suppose he's paid or not to tell us lies, how this will define anything.
Well, we'll know then because we'll have Gaston's editor who will give us the actual truth live on the telephone. But there's something else. I want to ask Claire Spelling, because not only is she someone I have no reason inherently to trust or distrust, but also she's giving a talk on taming broken minds.
Here, this convention.
Yes. And I'm curious as to whether or not she has any experience with people who feel they've stepped out of time. Whether or not she would consider that to be a psychiatric condition.
Rudi goes through the catalog of the symposium and says, a botanist. That gives further room to the theory that we have been drugged.
Exactly.
By something.
Which is why I'm expecting that since Gaston and I had the soup, we'll both be skipping the beef.
Right. So, am I getting it right that the three of you then have three different ways you're going to go to talk to different people? So we've got Rudi as much as he doesn't trust him, will talk to Jean.
He doesn't want to.
Doesn't want to, but he'll do it if he has to. I guess.
What an idiot.
Tony will go for Claire, and Gaston's going to go to the front desk to find out. Let's do those one at a time, and at some point during this, we'll take our break. How about that? Right,
Okay.
so we'll do one first, and the one I want to go to first is Gaston. Lovely
Right.
Gaston. You go through. You go out the dining hall. You go through the main part. It's mainly because he gets to go past the bear. And I just wanted to bring the bear up again. He's there with 4 umbrellas now, an extra coat thrust over its arm. One, the hat's has gone, and you see someone outside in the outside bar wearing the hat. He's looking a bit dishevelled. And
This bear is clearly evil.
very much so. A glint in its glass eye.
It no longer has bare arms; they're covered in coats.
Yes,
Well, at least a coat.
that's suspicious already. And you go past the door to your right, which is, as you would know, is the door to your rooms. And then there's the staircase after that, which goes upstairs to the others. And then to the left by the front door is the reception. And this again is a beautiful pine room. They've got scents burning. There's greenery above and down the side. There's it's a cuckoo clock. It has to be a cuckoo clock there, and a larger clock ticking away. There's many clocks, and behind the rather lovely, actually, it's quite rustic but very pretty front desk. There is someone you recognise, and it is of course the Sylvie, who is on reception.
Bonjour, mademoiselle.
Bonsoir, Monsieur Gaston. How has your stay been today?
It's been truly magical. Thank you for asking.
I'm so glad. I hope everything is good with you. I hope you're having a wonderful time here. I'm so glad that we can offer you all that we can.
It's truly it's truly been a wonderful stay so far. Tell me, are you a gambling woman?
I'm certainly not, Mr. Delarue. How you know, as the Americans say, pennies and dimes. I very little.
How about this for a bit? If I can guess your first name, you have dinner with me tomorrow night.
Dinner, Monsieur Delarue.
On me, of course.
Not a plate.
I mean, that's quite forward for 1937. But
there's a cheekiness about her.
We could discuss this.
Well, I get off later, sir. You wish to discuss this later? I can give you my my room number, sir.
Perhaps dinner first.
Okay, I like dinner, but I like good dinners. There needs to be fancy dinners.
Of course, I hear about a place in town that's quite spectacular.
What's the bet? What's the bet, sir?
That I can guess your first name.
Has Philippe been talking to you, sir? I feel this feels like an unfair bet.
Which one is Philippe? He looks around.
Could you please roll your charisma plus your
Oh,
chat of all trades?
thanks, Luke. Oh, that's 6 plus 5.
Oh.
An 11. Ah, Gaston, you smoothie.
Now, she relents a little, but you can probably tell this is not necessarily. It's almost like she probably knows that you know, but she's quite happy for you to know that you know, because she's hoping that you know that you know, because she's hoping that she's going to get to know you better.
I was more interested as to whether she knew that I know. She knew that I know that I know.
No, she's caught
If
up in
I'm
the moment.
honest.
She's caught up in the moment. You're all right. You can't.
Because I
You
had
can't.
to ask last time, right? There was.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I had to ask her name last time we were having a conversation. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
throw that out there.
She strikes you as someone who has heard it all before, but she's quite taken by you, from what you can tell.
Well, first, if you tell me this, is there a telephone I can use?
There is the telephone, sir. If you wish to use it, I can bring it up.
Yes, please.
And she reaches under the under the counter, and she pulls up an old phone. Well, it was new then, an old cell phone. And she puts it down and says, "Is it long distance, sir? It's quite expensive. We will need to charge you for it. It will go on your bill."
Oh no, please, of course, charge the room.
Okay, sir.
And he starts ringing up the number for the newspaper. Puts it to his head and just covers the receiver and says, thank you, Sylvie. Gets back to the phone.
You sort of catch her smile. He says, "I get off tomorrow at 7. It'll be somewhere nice, yes?"
Of course.
He says, "And it's staff room number 5." And she busies herself with some paperwork. And you hear the dial, and the operator answers. Do you wish to be connected to ce soir?
Yes, please.
Bear with me a minute.
Merci. Thank you.
Sorry. And then you hear, "This is ce soir. How can I help you?"
Bonjour, it's Gaston Delarue calling. Could you put me through to the? I'm assuming I know the editor's name.
Mm-hmm.
Could you put me through to the editor's office, please?
I'll check if he's still in, Monsieur Delarue. It's quite late.
Of course. If not, just a quick. If you could take a message, that would be wonderful.
And then there's a click in a moment, and then you hear the editor. Gaston, what are you doing? How can I help you at this time of night? This is important.
Hello.
My wife's birthday. I was just leaving. Be quick.
I'm on to. I've got a big story. This is massive. Both he looks around a little bit. Both Mr. Tony and Mr. Rudi are onto something massive. Tell me quick. What I was hit over the head earlier. I may have lost some time. What's the date? What day is it? When's your wife's birthday?
Do you need to be careful? What are you doing getting hit over the head? We don't pay you danger money.
It's fine. It's a story that's worth it. Trust me.
I'm concerned. Are you sure you're okay?
I'm fine. Yes, just tell me the date.
It's Friday the 3rd of December.
Okay, thank you. At least I haven't lost as much time as I thought. There's still time. And he just hangs up. And Rushes, but he doesn't rush back. He hangs up hurriedly and then plays it cool again and makes his way back to the dining room.
I think it's really important to see you playing it cool because I need to get that vibe. Otherwise, it's really hard to GM.
Well, you've been doing a good job so far, Luke.
As Gaston heads back, he heads back to a table which is empty because he sees Tony at Claire's table and he sees Rudi at Jean's table. And this is where we're going to take a break right now for 5
just
minutes.
Quickly, Luke.
Yes.
Is that the date that I was expecting it to be?
Yes. Sorry. Yes.
I should totally have asked that.
Yeah.
You just said any Friday.
It's Friday the 3rd of December 2017.
Precisely.
I mean, you joke, but
It's possible. No, it's exactly the date you think it would be.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks.
Let's refill our glasses, do toilet breaks, everything we need to, feed cats, and let's be back in 5 minutes for another burst of this adventure. Don't go anywhere if you're watching.
Wonderful stuff.
cheers. See you in 5.
Hello, everyone. We're back. The vibes are very posy. The drinks are flowing. The snacks are going. I've got meat and crisps. John's got a carrot. But apart from that, things are good. At least I heard that Ewan went to the kitchen and buttered a load of bread and started dumping it in some tin soup. And Ben overcooked a steak. And we're back for you both. He's the evilest of all.
No, do you know the worst thing? I got the impression that you said when he ripped off some bread with a load of butter on it that it was already buttered and that he wasn't breaking the bread and then buttering it. Which is, which is what you should be doing, not buttering the whole bread and then breaking it.
It's depraved, isn't it, frankly?
Madness.
The one thing that'll prove he's so evil is when he goes and sets fire to the bear later.
Ooh.
Anyway, we're back. Gaston has just gone and flirted with Sylvia on reception, offering a meal as a bet and then calling his newspaper to find out that today is indeed today. I could have told him that for nothing. And saved a lot of money in telephone calls. And we're heading over to Rudi as he makes his way over to the bottom left of the dining hall to the couple of Jean and Nancy Durand, who are just tucking into their steak.
Yes, he's going reluctantly so because he already spent some time with them in this on some other timeline. And his mission is to just ask him what the date is. What is his mission again?
You tell me.
What did Tony told him to do? He will follow Tony's lead.
To go and talk to Jean Durand and find out from him what day it is and whether or not he's noticed anything odd, basically.
Okay, let's see how I can make this exchange as Rudi as possible. Rudiest as possible. He goes there.
Monsieur Otto! I haven't seen you for a long time. Come and sit down. Come and sit down.
He sits before he finishes his sentence. He sits down and goes like, "Ah, mon Dieu, mon Dieu."
A great
Jean.
talk today, Monsieur Otto. A sensational talk. The way you answered some of those questions, magnifique.
Did you? How long? How much hour has passed after these conventions? My mind is all foggy.
Well, Nancy and I. Oh, you've not met Nancy, have you? This is my new bride. Nancy, this is the wonderful Rudi Otto. Rudi, this is my beautiful wife, Nancy.
Rudi will be extremely rude and say, "I hope she turns out to be better than Camille." Pleasure to meet you.
Sean's, roll a charisma, please.
I want purposely to fail that. That's a 2 and a 3 because my charisma has been lowered, so it's a total of 5.
Jean and Nancy's faces both drop, and they're quite shocked at this. And Jean is like, "Please, Monsieur Otto, this is not the time and the place for this. You know what happened. Please, I'm trying to forget about that woman. Here I am with my beautiful wife, and you bring up the past like scraping off the bottom of our shoes."
And yet again, she and what she done and what she helped me find out about this world is something I've never forgotten since that day. And the people who died on that boat. Something that I see you have very well moved on, but you haven't answered my question. How much time has passed since my lecture, my speech?
As you're talking and asking, Nancy gets up and storms off towards who knows.
Excellent.
For just Sean.
This is a weird deja vu.
John is like, well, Monsieur Otto, it's early evening, and are you are you drinking, Monsieur Otto?
Not quite as much as I would like.
Just a few hours. Just a few hours. We came back. We probably came back before you, because I know that you were filled. When we left, you were talking and laughing and chatting with academics, and I'm certainly not one of those. But
Oh, he
you came
sighs
back in about an
really
hour
loud.
ago.
Listen, John, we both know that you're a bad actor that will do anything for money. So why don't you
Monsieur
just tell
Otto!
me if you're into this or not?
I'm laughing because it's
Or
me. He's not. What do you mean into this, Monsieur Otto? You've come here, offended me, upset my beautiful new wife, and now you're asking crazy questions. I will tell you one more time. It is the evening of Friday. I was trying to have a nice evening with this snow falling outside and enjoy a good evening. I would count you as, if not an acquaintance, at least a slight friend, and you come and insult both of us with your drunkenness and your rudeness. So if you don't mind, please leave me to my evening and leave me to my wife. And Jean throws down his knife and fork, and he marches out after his wife.
When he's leaving, he will still sitting on the table. He will shout, "You embarrass yourself!" Then return to the table with the others.
Well, he is, judging by the length of that, he's the first one back quite easily by that point. Um, but as he goes back, he marches past the table of Claire Spelling and Julian Peters, where Tony Guerrero has approached.
I walk up, give a quick nod to Peters, but don't directly engage him. And then I look across and say, Madame Spelling, is it not?
Monsieur Tony Guerrero, a pleasure to have you by my table. You're close. I am Miss Claire Spelling.
Ah, even better. So, I was interested to see the subject of your talk, which is in a couple of days, I understand.
It is. Tomorrow we will get to listen to our, as she's just about to say, Jean Durand as he storms past after his wife. And there he goes. We'll get, obviously he needs his sleep for the evening. About some movie he's in. And then a biologist talking about sunlight. And then, yes, Sunday morning is myself.
Oh, nice.
It was a joy to be asked. I wasn't expecting it, and this is probably the high point. I should have done it in America. Should have done it in one of John's New York accents. It's the highlight of my career so far to be on such an illustrious symposium.
Oh, why weren't you expecting it?
I don't wish to be rude, Monsieur Guerrero, but most biologists and botanists and chemists to get asked such things have a good 30 years on me. I'm the youngest botanist or biologist to speak at one of these in 20 years. And It's, as you would well know, I'm the only woman, and again, being a woman in my field means rare chance.
I see. I would take issue with your point that they have a good 30 years on you. I've seen these people, and it looks like it was a pretty hard 30 years for them, to be honest.
Roll charisma.
Okay.
There's like two of you trying to be really smooth, and one of you just trying to be an absolute foundation.
Okay, that's a total of 5. 2 plus 3.
As she rolls her eyes at that. I've heard it all before, Mr. Guerrero. I've heard it all before. You're a handsome man, you're a smart man, but I'm not interested in that regard.
The subject matter, however, of your talk, I think, is the thing that interests me the most.
Taming the broken mind.
The broken mind, nature's way.
There's a lot of broken minds around these days, Mr. Guerrero.
I agree, but here I suppose is my question. I can completely understand how a botanist might become an expert in the chemistry and the biochemistry of plants and plant extracts. But how do you settle on their uses in the field of psychiatry?
Mr. Guerrero, I spent some time with Native Americans on their lands, and befriending them and spending time partaking of natural herbs and smoke and substances, and learning that certain of these substances can relax and calm and take away the stresses and strains and fears of life. I've seen them mend the broken mind.
Interesting. We're talking perhaps not just a more general sense of pharmaceuticals, but also perhaps narcotics.
Many of these so-called narcotics, Mr. Guerrero, are only so because of law. Many of them are grown naturally, and the peoples of this world have made use of them for centuries. Whether of the poppy or the plant that I've partaken of often, with its many leaves.
Oh yes.
Or plants further south in America. The opiums that spread across Europe. They're only illegal when it's decided upon by governments, Mr. Guerrero. Before that, they were used for many years. There are saps, tree saps, juices from plants you've never heard of that tribesmen would smoke and go on hallucinatory trips for hours at a time.
That is quite interesting. I suppose I'm forced to ask whether there is any reason to believe that such things could cause fracturing of the mind as well as potentially heal it. Much as you rightly say, governments wade in and restrict access to things that could be valuable medicine when it suits them. But at the same time, when their political ends need to be met, they'll happily ship opium halfway around the world.
Any substance, Mr. Guerrero, can heal the mind, but taken in the wrong way, without a man or woman of wisdom to lead you there, can break the mind. And in order to understand how to tame one mind, you have to understand how these things can indeed break the mind also.
It's interesting to me. You say that it is possible in some cases for chemicals of this nature to give you an out-of-body experience, a disconnected experience, a trip, as you put it, for hours at a time. How long do you
Hallucinations.
think is the longest that it is practical to
I've
experience such a thing?
I've spent time with one tribe that the young men, when they become adults, would partake of not quite plant, but from a small frog, and would hallucinate and go on a spiritual journey for up to 16 hours.
Interesting indeed. Have you witnessed that yourself?
I have not taken of it. It's being a woman, a white American woman, of course. It was not my place to take it. While I've been offered things within other tribes and within other Native American tribes, certain things are not open to me, only to observe and to make notes.
And if one wanted, for example, to encounter such a frog, would one have to go all the way to South America for it?
The only time I have seen such frogs in America, in North America or Europe, has been at the end of a pin under glass to be ogled and pointed at.
I assume such a frog would have lost its abilities by then.
Long, long ago. Often they are dead many years.
I see. Yes. Yes. I suppose that is sad, though. Keeping an animal captive away from its natural environment is also sad sometimes.
We all wither an age when we are away from our natural habitat, Mr. Guerrero.
I agree. I agree indeed.
At this point,
Will
you
you?
at this point you almost get run into by Rudi storming past you in kind of a he's sort of a funny sort of vibe. He sort of almost looks quite happy with himself at the same time. Sorry,
Uh,
back to you, Tony.
will you be attending both of the talks tomorrow?
I won't do tomorrow morning. It's not for me. I'm not one for the frippery of Hollywood. Tomorrow afternoon will be interesting. I've done work with Dr. Wellesley. He's spent some time with a couple of tribes with me, looking at the human psyche, and in sunny areas. I can't say that I've influenced his work, but I'd be interested to see his side of things.
His apparently is something to do with sunlight.
Sunlight. Have you ever just laid in sunlight and the world's felt much better?
I'm Italian.
Well, then you know.
Yes, usually I don't just lie in sunlight. I lie in sunlight with wine, for example, or sometimes a companion. But the point, I think, remains true. So you don't expect to be attending the morning's talk, but you will sit and, at least out of professional courtesy, sit through Dr. Wellesley's.
I look forward to Dr. Wellesley's, it must be said, and I'll probably have a few questions for him.
Well, he also seems to be looking into the human psyche. It's fashionable these days, of course, isn't it?
It's the last great unknown. They say that man will go to space one day, and man has already started exploring the depths of the oceans. But the human mind is still a great mystery.
I think I would be startled to see a man explore space, whereas the mind, perhaps, we don't know it well enough, but we have at least begun to examine it.
They say that they will send men up in vast balloons until they're out of the Earth's grasp towards the moon in giant balloons.
I'm genuinely curious as to where one might sign up for such an adventure. In any event, I've kept you far too long from your food. I do apologise. And I'll turn to the journalist.
Yes.
And say, forgive the intrusion. I'll let you get back to your conversation. And then walk back to the table.
As you make it back to the table, yeah, she's seeing the Red Bull, the guy jumping out of a Red Bull balloon. For goodness sake! As you make it back to the table, you sit down next to Tony, and your plates have been cleared, and you just have your glasses that have been refilled. Yours with wine, and Rudi's with the schnapps from outside. Is the bottle still cold? It's done it a world of good. It's the best schnapps you could ever have. And as you top your glass up, it's crisp. And as the two of you sit there, and Gaston makes his way back, you hear some clapping from the manager.
Mm-hmm.
And Fricka, and he says, "Ladies and gentlemen, with dessert this evening, we have a special treat for you. The great Bowman is going to perform magical feats of mind reading, of hypnosis, and magic. So please fill your glasses, enjoy the start of your desserts. He will join us in just a few minutes' time. The great Bowman." And the Bowman sort of looks up a bit confused. He's tucking into his dessert. He's gone for a sort of a nice creamy dessert with a red wine. He's mixing everything up tonight.
What is Peter the Groot doing right now?
Now the Groot is excited about the great Bowman. He's a believer in these things, and he's sort of you know about this from the night before. Van Beek is very much a skeptic,
Yes.
and the Groot is very much a believer.
I remember, yes, and does too. I've carefully and meticulously and strategically managed to remove one of the great Bauman's victims from the scene. I'm talking about Nancy Durand. But perhaps we should do the same up with Dr. the Groot. Prevent him from being mesmerized into taking his own life, he says, kind of whispering, but not really again.
I assume we've all established to our satisfaction that it is in fact Friday night.
Well, from the corner of my eye, I saw both of you flirting more than inquiring useful questions. But
at least someone's working hard.
I guess you're younger than me. You still have, you're still at your prime. I understand. But yes, as for the Durand couple, completely useless as usual.
My dear Rudi, though it may never actually arrive, I still wish to make plans for dinner.
I'm invincible!
Tomorrow night. But yes, indeed, my editor confirmed it was. Is it Friday the 3rd of December? I think.
Yes.
Is that the information I got? Friday the 3rd of December.
This is, in many ways, good news, because I think we can now say with some confidence that what we have seen is more a premonition than a time change, right?
A premonition, or we were led to believe that time has actually passed when it hasn't.
Yes, exactly. So
What fruits? What were the fruits of your label, pun intended, with the botanist?
She gave me some insights into the way plants and animals can be used to affect people's brains, which I found quite interesting. I find it plausible that we were drugged in some way and then rendered suggestible and told a story. And that story is what we think was played out in front of us. But
Did she told you if she has samples of such hallucinogen plants with her or not?
she did not mention them, no. And I suspect in many ways that's beside the point. The bigger question would be, would our hallucination or our premonition actually come to pass? And if so, who would have the motive to give us advance warning of it so that we could perhaps stop it?
Well, and who, if indeed it is suggestion, who would have the knowledge of what were to happen? Say for example, we allowed the show to go on uninterrupted and we acted as we had previously acted. Who would, if it was mere suggestion planted in our brains, and who would know that that is how it's going to play out? It's beyond my capability to think of such a person or entity, I suppose.
We know that reality won't play out the way it did in the premonition, hallucination, whatever it is, because Rudi has successfully dispatched Nancy away from the room.
Strategically so, yes.
Yes.
That was the purpose.
So she will not be available to be a guinea pig for the great Bauman.
So perhaps before the Bauman arrives, we should do the same with Dr. Peter the Good.
Ladies and gentlemen, you spend so much time talking, guys. The Great Bauman.
Look at Luke. Can't comment on that.
Peter the Groot starts clapping very excitedly. As
let's see how this goes.
the Great Bauman stands up, wipes some butter from the edge of his mouth.
Rudi is clenching his face.
And he steps forward. His table is like some tables are moved away to make him some space. Ladies and gentlemen, it is I, the Great Bauman, your humble servant this evening. Don't you know who I am? I am here merely to bring you some trifles of some nuggets of enjoyment and entertainment, just as a small part of your evening. Those that were here this last night saw some of my magical tricks, my understanding of the occult, of the unknown, of the deep and mighty things. And today, I'm going to focus on my control of the human mind. And so, round of applause from like the randoms by the dining hall windows.
Maybe by the time he says the word occult, already goes like.
Roll a charisma for me, please.
Yes, that's another roll that I want to fail. And again, it is a 5.
The Great Bauman shoots you a very dirty look.
I know that he knows who I am, though.
Yeah, he does. He knows. Everyone knows the two of you, at least. They don't know Gaston. Gaston's at random, but they know you two because you're heroes. he looks around and he says, tonight I'm going to look for 3 minds, and I'm going to take their minds in my hand and meld them to my will. Now, first, who shall I?
Rudi raises his hand.
Roll a charisma again, please.
Rudi goes like that, and he didn't last time. But this
Mm.
time it is a total of 6. Maybe it's +1 if it's occult.
Even then, the great bowman looks straight past you, unfortunately, and
He does draw attention, though.
yeah, he does. You notice his eye definitely spots on you, because remember last time you were really just like about it. His eye wanders past you and points out to Claire Spelling, who also has her hand up. She's got a slightly ironic smile on her face, I guess.
Okay.
He says, Miss Spelling, an American. Come, Miss Spelling. And Claire Spelling gets up to like a round of applause from the room. And the great bowman stands next to him, puts his arm on her shoulder. Pauses briefly. And he says, now, Miss Spelling, I'm going to whisper an incantation into your ear. And then I shall share it with the room. And you can consider yourself under my control. And he leans in and whispers something in her ear. And she stops. And she sort of gives a half nod. Closes her eyes. And he says, Miss Spelling, you, when I count to 5, you will not be able to stop laughing until I tell you otherwise. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And immediately, Claire Spelling starts laughing. And the crowd start applauding, and she's cackling away. Looking to the great bowman. He's like, I am not stopping. Keep going. And the crowd sort of laugh and sort of play along. And she looks a bit nervous in her eyes, but she's still laughing. And goes back to the table and sits down next to Julian Peters, who's sort of clapping like the Energizer Bunny, which you wouldn't know in the 30s, of course, but we know. And everyone seems very happy. He says, I need another volunteer for another great trick of the mind. Anyone?
Rudi raises his hands like a little child that knows the answer.
Roll a charisma, please.
6 + 3, 9. And 10 if you consider occult.
Wow, Mr. Rudi Otto. What an honor. Come and join me.
Rudi takes his time to do a walk of triumph, returns to the crowd, waving to the people. and says out loud with his pompous, thunderous voice, "It is I, Rudi Otto, the hero of Bern, the the one that discovered the bracelet of." And he says his latest achievements, and then he proceeds to go up on the stage. The one with 10 and 0. No, he doesn't actually say that. And he proceeds to the stage.
The great Bauman pauses when you get up there, and he looks in your eyes and he says, "Monsieur Otto, do you truly believe?"
Believe it what? In our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ?
Maybe him, but not this evening. This evening it's all about the power of the mind.
Believe in the power of mind in general, not necessarily yours.
I need a true believer up here. A mind that is closed is like a starving man hammering on the door of a wealthy man who will not open it.
I see. Perhaps if you would make me by 100 francs wealthier, my mind would open as well.
Roll a charisma, a flat charisma, please. But I'm not telling you how hard this test is. I'm not telling you how hard this checks, so don't get too excited early on.
It's a one. So, however difficult it was,
It's a failure. He says, "Monsieur Otto, you are a man with great intelligence, but I feel you need to see it to believe it. Please stand here. Watch one more. Watch me. And after this, I shall hypnotize you if you feel you are willing to be open to me." And he offers you a space to the side of him.
He will proceed to his space, but whilst getting there, he will say, this time with an actual whispered tone and lower voice, that I know that you are paying 100 francs for people to do your little theatrical plays here. And I know that you are behind this very ordeal.
Okay. And the great Bauman looks at you for a little while. And there's a moment in his eyes. And then he, ever the professional, however you think of him as a professional, he's still a professional. He turns back to the audience and says, "The great Rudi Otto is a man of great mind, a powerful occult mentality. And understandably, he needs more proof." And he looks around and then he points directly out. He says, "You! Come to me." And the person that stands up is Flavio Esposito. He looks a bit shocked. He's like, "Me?" And he walks up. And the great Bauman says, "Give the man a round of applause." He says, "Now, Monsieur Esposito, you're an intelligent man, a man of science, a man of knowledge, a man who, if any naysayer would disbelieve, a man who could be trusted is a scientist like you, a man of knowledge, a man of enlightenment. And Flavio nods. He's a man of few words. And the great bowman pauses, puts his hands on both shoulders from behind, and leans in the other side of the head to where you are, Rudi, like a metre or two away, and seems to whisper something into the man's ear.
As the whispering's going on, can Gaston jump in and do something, please, Link?
Depends what you want to do.
Who's closest to me that isn't Tony?
The table across from you are Van Beek and de Groot.
He'll lean across to the table and cover his mouth, and he'll say, 1 degree every 5 minutes for half hour. I think that was what was said, and then he'll just sit back in his seat.
I like your thinking. Roll charisma for me, please.
That is a 4 on the dice plus 3 is a 7.
Okay, I'll make a note of that number. The two of them have heard you, and they look at you interestedly before they look back to Bauman. He finishes his whisper, and he touches Flavio on the top of the head. And he said, "For you, Monsieur Esposito, I gift to you the greatest gift. The most important task for you will be a man who seeks out evil. And he sort of touches him, and he counts down from 5, and he steps back. And he says, "Now, Monsieur Esposito." And immediately, Flavio shudders, and he looks around, and he points to a random diner by the window. He says, this man is evil." And the waiters rush in, and they grab the man, and they lift him up, and they sort of pull open his jacket, and they go through the pockets, and they find some wallets. And immediately people are starting patting themselves. And Julian Peters is like, my wallet's missing. And they open one, it says, "This one says it's yours, Mr. Peters." And Stefano Esposito is patting, and he's like, "Oh, my wallet too." And they're like, "This is yours." And the great bowman puts his fingers to his head and he says, "Take this man away, for Flavio Esposito has sought out evil tonight." And then everyone starts clapping.
Same waiter, Luke.
Yes. There's a lot of applause, and Flavio looks a bit nonplussed and confused, and he goes back and sits next to his brother. And he turns to you, Rudi, and he says, do you still not believe?"
He answers in a low tone and says, "Do you want me to answer publicly or just for you, my friend?"
The great bowman smiles and he says, "For you, Monsieur Otto, I have a special hypnosis if you are willing to open your mind to me."
"Oh, I'm willing."
And he turns to the crowd and he says, "Did you hear that, crowd? The man with a great understanding of the occult, of the powers that be, a man with the finest beard in the room, a believer, is willing to offer himself to me." And he puts his hands on your shoulders. And he whispers into your ear. He says, Ben and Ewan, mute. Can you not listen, please?
Yeah, hold on. Can you wave something when it's time? I'll keep watching the screen.
Yeah. He says to you, are you expecting money, Monsieur Otto?
I am expecting that you will offer me money, but I don't need money.
What is this worth to you, Mr. Otto?
I know that your starter price is 100 francs.
Would that buy your silence, Monsieur Otto?
No. That would buy me a good laugh that I will share with the entire crowd.
Is there any amount that will buy your silence, Monsieur Otto, between two men of knowledge as you and I?
You disgrace me by putting yourself next to mine in that regard.
In which case, Monsieur Otto, I owe you
In which
not.
case, you should have never allowed me to come up on the stage at all.
In which case, Monsieur Otto, I owe you nothing. And he rears back. Ben, Ben.
Okay, I'm back on.
Cool. He takes a step back and he touches upon Rudi Otto's head and he says, this is not one for this evening, ladies and gentlemen, but one for the future. For however much Rudi Otto drinks this evening, tomorrow he will be totally sober.
That actually confuses Rudi a bit. That confuses him a bit.
Fantastic. Totally okay.
And as he sort of leans forward as you go, he says, did you expect something else, Monsieur Otto?
I did something in the regard of temperature and whatnot. Funny that you should say the words that you just said.
Drink, enjoy this evening. For tomorrow, the next time you wake, you will not be hungover. And then immediately he turns to the crowd and he says, I have been the great bowman, ladies and gentlemen. Watch for these three over the next hours, for they will time and time again prove my magnificence and my knowledge. And he takes the applause and he heads out of the door towards the snug direction. As the waiters hurry round with, after dinner drinks, bottles of spirits, wines and whiskies and brandies and so on, ports and such like. So applauding crowd. A few people head out to the outside bar. A few people make their leave and head out towards the snug where there's another very pretty bar, as you know. Heading out into the hallway to get their coats off the big bear. There's still a big crowd, but it's it's that after dinner vibe now. It's feeling good.
Sorry, Luke. Just very quickly, what was the announcement? I missed it.
Which announcement? That it's what the bowman said.
Yeah.
That however much Monsieur Otto drinks this evening, when he wakes up, he will be totally sober.
Okay.
Yeah. I am pursuing, as I did last time, the great bowman out of the dining hall and towards the snug.
Anyone else going with him, or just Tony?
No, Rudy is confused. He was very certain of himself like a few moments ago, and by the end, after the announcement, he's like confused, and obviously so.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Gaston. Anything hanging around?
As is Gaston, but Gaston will follow into the snug.
Okay.
Perhaps somewhat on autopilot, I guess.
No, it's what you did last time, I guess.
I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. The two of you head out into Snug. You're followed by the Groot and Van Beek, who turn off and head to the billiard room to end the evening playing billiards together. It's that sort of 8 p.m. sort of time, very similar to last time, as you remember. And there's a hubbub coming, and the vibe is getting very positive. People, through your ear as you go, there's a lot of chatter about the evening. Just you leave that mix of the smoke has dropped that first sort of meter in the air from all the cigarette and cigar smoke, especially as people are sparking up after their meals. And you leave that sort of warm, fragrant, smoky dining hall into a quieter, darker, I'm not saying stale, but sort of cold and stiller hallway. And then straight into the snug, so close that that door of the snug is still closing from the bowman entering.
Okay. I will go close on his heels, please.
I like the fact you call it. The bowman, it's kind of a Deep Space Nine. The bowman has walked halfway into the snug. As you remember, there's a bar in the corner, which at this time of night is manned by a staff member. You have the two doorways to the balcony, and you've got some nice, comfortable seats in here with smaller, rounder tables and a fire at the far end, it's obviously quite fresh. They've obviously set it in there for people moving through from the dining hall. And the bowman is removing some of his apparel. He's got a bag in there that he's preparing. And he's got his back to you as you enter.
Mr. Bauman, thank you for demonstrating your prowess this evening. I do appreciate it. However, there is something that I hear you did last night that I missed. Your famed levitation. I was wondering if you would deign to let me see it.
My famed levitation. Well, you weren't here, were you, Monsieur Guerrero? And Monsieur, he looks towards you, Gaston. Monsieur, I'm sorry, Monsieur. Your name evades me.
I am Monsieur Delarue.
Monsieur Delarue. Well, you weren't here either yesterday evening. Yes, I did my famous levitation. I float off the ground. A sight to behold.
Please allow us to see this.
I am so sorry, Monsieur Guerrero. This is not something I can just give away of an evening. Tonight was I had to prepare myself for hours for this trick of mentalism and hypnosis, and to levitate takes time and meditation. I hope you understand. I will be doing it again tomorrow afternoon while you are at your convention. I will spend the day preparing myself like the Middle Eastern fakirs almost to perform this trick.
So we might be able to see it tomorrow evening, is what you're telling me.
Tomorrow evening I shall be performing in the dining hall. You shall see me levitate.
I shall look forward to it.
It's a sight to behold, and I shall look forward to performing it in front of you.
Very well. Good night. And I
No.
will turn and storm out with thunder on my face, even though obviously he can't see it.
Luke, did you say preparing a bag?
He's he's got a bag there which he's sort of putting some of his clothes into. He's changing a little bit for the evening. He's been very much in his sort of performance garb, I guess. We're not talking top hat and twiddly tash, but we're talking, a bit more colourful, a pocket chief, just a bit more of a high class garb, and he's definitely changing into more of an evening wear.
This is going
like
on.
Sorry, yeah.
No, go for it.
I just want to say that I imagine him like a cheap version of Rasputin for some reason. I don't know.
Is it the butter bread that gave that away? Is it? He has that vibe. He does give off that sort of, when he's alone, it's the man that breathes out and lets go of his cummerbund kind of thing, No one's around and he's changing himself to his true self.
Assuming the conversation is going on as he's messing around with the bag, can Gaston just keep an eye? It's not even looking for anything in particular, just any gleam of something that's not clothing, either in the bag or coming in and out of the bag.
Roll an education, please.
That's a 2 + 2. It's a 4.
You can see him shoving stuff in the bag, but you can't really see into it. You see like his jacket goes, and he brings on a much more relaxed cut jacket. The waistcoat goes in. He's sort of shedding the waistcoat for the evening. He even changes his shoes to a softer shoe, but you see nothing within the bag. And as you watch, he sort of finishes and he buckles up his bag, turns around to see you. Monsieur Delarue, is there anything I can do to help you? I'm off to bed. I have an early bed. I wake early to meditate.
No, not at all. I was just somewhat enamoured by your performance. It was spectacular.
Roll charisma, please.
Oh, it's 1. I'm assuming not a
they
jack
all
of all trades.
they all that.
Although
No, I'll give you that, but even then, it's a fact. Chat of all trades is
still
a different. It's a different. It's of a different class. It's normally for the help, isn't it? In inverted commas, chat of all trades.
Yeah.
Even then, I hear that. I hear that often.
I can imagine. Sorry, I didn't mean to be intrusive.
No offense taken. No offense taken.
Good night.
Good night. Are we seeing you tomorrow evening? Are you coming to see me levitate?
I wouldn't miss it.
Good. I look forward to it. See you tomorrow. Sleep well.
Yes. Thank you, and you.
I will. And he heads out. We have just enough time when the two are in there to make one last trip to Rudi as the two follow Bauman in. And he's sat left at the table, racking his brains and a bit confused by the moment. Is there anything Rudi would like to do over those few minutes?
Rudy's thoughts rotate around the fact that things did not go as planned, and he would be absolutely determined and convicted about anything, up to the point that this great Bauman said that tomorrow he will wake up and unaffected by his heavy drinking, because it's exactly what happened according to his understanding the night before or whatever. It's a bit confusing to describe when and where. But that is the case. He wants to take. He's certainly confused, and the smug smile on his face has evaporated. Although he's not convinced of the man because he did actually offer him money, so it's not a matter of if he's a true magician or not. He wants to take a look at Flavio Esposito
Mhm.
and check what he's doing. If he's like shocked, is he shocked in the same way Dr. Peter de Groot was in the memory that he has at least of yesterday?
um, are you checking him from afar, or are you going closer to him?
From afar, do I see anything? If not, he will get closer before he returns to the table with Tony and Gaston.
Well, let's start with an education roll then. I always say education from afar, charisma from close. I think is reasonable.
5 and 3 and +1 always if it is occult.
You're
So it's at least an
just
8.
assuming a cult by now.
At least an 8.
Flavio is sat with his brother, so the two of them are to the top where you see the dining hall. There at the top, they were one along from the Great Bowman, and he is sat with his brother, and they are drinking spirits. From what you can tell, they're probably drinking a whiskey. And he seems okay. He's like they're just chatting away about the evening. Very similar. They're not. They're expressive. They're Italian, so there's an expressiveness to them, but they're not giving away upset or anything. They're just chatting in Italian to each other quite happily.
Okay, in that case, Rudy tries to remember how was Dr. Peter de Groot at this point? Was he troubled or acting in a similar, natural, according to that character, manner?
No, people that listen to the stream might know. Otherwise, you didn't really check on the Groot at this point because the
He
Groot
didn't
and
yet
Van
because,
Beek
yes,
headed off to the billiard room.
indeed, and he
And
wouldn't.
you did not go into the billiard room, so you did not
Believe.
know.
Perhaps one of my companions did, so I will return to our table. And you will see Rudy approaching confused. Say to Tony and Gaston, do you remember if Dr. Peter de Groot, in the memory that all of us three, remember that we three was acting normally after the announcement that he will be able to detect evil or not?
I think I lost sight of him. I didn't pay that much attention. I went to see Bauman after the performance, and I think he was gone by the time I got back. I only learnt about his errand later in the evening when it was brought to my attention by Gaston.
The situation seems to be more perplexed than I initially thought, and answers seem to be eluding us thus far, and afraid that I'm not entirely sure if I fall asleep tonight, what's going to happen tomorrow, whether I drink myself to sleep or not. You understand?
There are a few things I think of importance we must consider. One is that we still don't know what happened to us and why it only happened to us. One is that we now have a completely different version of reality where different people are doing different things.
Mm-hmm.
But most important of all, I have made it all the way to the end of dinner and my trousers are still intact.
That's an oversight on my part, to be honest.
At least there is some good came out of it, you can say.
Exactly.
As the three of you sit there with the glasses full and so on, you start to notice again the Groot and Van Beekers have already moved on. Jean Durand moves back into the dining hall, but he's very much on his own, and he slumps back into his corner and motions over for a full bottle of wine, and it's clearly left with him. The Espositos are still there drinking. Claire is laughing away. Peters has moved away from her, unsurprisingly. He's not a husband. He doesn't need to stay with her, and he's headed off through the doors towards the snug or the billiard room or the bedrooms. And the sort of the day guests have started flitting away, and it's sort of that sort of 8:30 sort of time, so it's still early enough. But the dining hall is being cleared away, and that is where we're gonna end this evening. So thank you to you
Thank
three,
you.
and thank you to the viewers as sort of that warm, fuzzy feeling of the end of that part of the evening.
Oh, thank you, Luke. Thank you, guys. That was insane.
It was a brilliant plot twist. But I'm really looking forward to see how it will continue and where this is going.
Well, let's come back to it. Let's come back to it in April, shall we?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, perfect.
I'm happy, definitely.
Early April.
Yeah, let's go. I'll write it down. Early April. It's in.
Yeah.
We're filling our April
Split
already.
ASAP.
I know, April, yes. Whatever the first week in April is, we'll do it then. We'll get you in.
All right.
Oh, it's the first. April
Thank
the
you so
1st.
much.
April Fools. Cheers, man.
No, not then. Not then.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone, and thank you anyone that's watching on VOD.
Thank
Still hanging
you
around.
so much for the double deluxe Saturday night experience.
The John, the big John special. See you soon, man. You take care.
And yeah, you too. Good night and take care.
Good night, everyone. Bye.
Thank you all.
See
Good
ya.
night.
Bye.